Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Q&A edition of Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1303. I'm your host, Greg Audino, thanking you for taking some time out of your weekend to listen. Now, today, we will be taking another listener question, which you know I love, and I'll tell you that this one is a bit lengthier than usual. All right, so our asker has gone into some detail so we can fully understand the context, so do listen closely and try to follow along as I read through it. Okay? Let's jump in now and optimize your life. In 2017, I was turning 18, and I was entering what would be the most meaningful relationship of my life. I didn't know it at the time, but what this person and I had was very special, to say the least. It was our first relationship, and I felt uncomfortable talking about what troubled me, especially issues I had with the relationship. I saw some small problems as major flaws between us. I had bottled up problems and put a mental wall between us. I never told her any of this. Our breakup was mutual, and we eventually stopped talking as frequently, but met up here and there, and then finally concluded relations when I confessed I still loved her, and she didn't know how to handle it. No communication since that night. 4-ish years later, both of our best friends are happily together. My ex is slowly making an appearance in my life again, and it's great talking with her. We're both single as of now, and reconnecting has been emotionally challenging for me and maybe her as well. Although, I think of when we would chat effortlessly, and now it seems impossible. I want to rekindle this old flame because I realize no relationship stood to match the one I had with her. Perhaps things have changed though. How do you recommend I tread? Okay, a lot to this tale, like I said. Thanks for being so open and painting such a clear picture, Asker. I really appreciate that. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm kind of struggling to decide on how to present them, or the order in which I'd like to present them anyway. I guess I have some practical advice, but there is also so much that I feel could be worth reflecting on, so I'll just spill it all and leave it to you to decide what feels right in terms of how to order it. So, practically, I kind of worry that you're letting your appreciation for the connection you used to have, as well as your thirst for jumping back into that effortless communication, get in the way of your ability to just start fresh with her one step at a time. And my instinct is to ask you that with all of this in your mind, can you not start by just telling her what you're telling me? Which is essentially that you're having a desire to reconnect with her. I know you miss how it was and that you're eager to rekindle that, but you were right when you said at the end that perhaps things have changed. They've definitely changed. Now, that's not to say that the relationship can't be rebuilt. But yeah, of course things have changed and you have to honor that. To just jump right back in is something that's highly unlikely to happen. And if it did, I really wouldn't have much faith in that relationship anyway. At this point, there's just a lot that you need to get through first. And that's why the idea of rekindling an old flame, as you put it, can be dangerous. The reality is that 4 years have passed. You can't change the fact that you've both had separate lives that have altered who you are over the past 4 years. You can't erase the fact that you told her you loved her and it was left unresolved. These are major parts of your relationship at large with her, and they've changed the trajectory of the relationship you share and your relationships with yourselves. You've both had new experiences, and probably you have some new values now. The gap between 18 and 22 will do that to you. That's a period of huge development, and you're not even out of it yet either. So, with that being said, you can reflect on the comforts of the past, of course, but it's not ever going to look the exact same. However, that doesn't mean it can't be better. Things changing, strong words exchanged, and a lot of time apart doesn't mean that you can't have a great relationship with her now. It just means that it won't look exactly the same, like I said. And ultimately, it has to be rebuilt rather than stepped back into, which is a subtle but powerful mindset shift. So if it's going to work, the focus would have to be on starting slow and rebuilding. And in order to do that, you mustn't be impatient or convince yourself that things are doomed if it's not exactly the way it was right away. In order to do a proper rebuild, you'd probably want to start by expressing your feelings, right? You've expressed them to me, and for my money, the best way of expressing them to her, again, would be to simply share with her that you have a desire to reconnect, and that while you're a little confused about how to do it or how she's feeling, that's what's in your heart. You see, this is approaching her from a place of honesty. It's not playing a game. And that is the best thing that you can do for you. And that's what's most important. It doesn't guarantee that she'll feel the same way or that she will respond favorably, but it does guarantee that you took ownership of your true feelings and that you were vulnerable with her rather than manipulative. This feels like the best thing that you can do for you. And it should be said that I feel particularly confident about this with you because in your question, you seem to reflect a lot on where you went wrong. You talk about not knowing how good you had it, and that makes me wonder about the role that regret might play in all of this. So is it possible that there is some self-shaming for, in your mind, not being the best partner you could be and not knowing what you had until it was gone? If so, that guilt could be a separate pain that you're feeling, separate from the loss of the relationship itself. And if so, that's making your struggle, your overall struggle, twice as hard. It's a bit speculative on my part and, more something for you to reflect on. But I guess what I'm saying is that you have an opportunity now to lay your current cards on the table, which seems like it would be of particular value to you since, again, I do feel as though you grieved the fact that you were unable or unwilling to do that 4 years ago. And speaking of which, the last thing I want to bring up is how you said you didn't talk about issues you saw in the relationship and that you maybe made small problems out to be bigger than they were. Now, this is totally precautionary, and I'm not insinuating anything, especially because of everything I just said about how much has changed, but maybe you made those problems out to be bigger than they were, like you said, and maybe you didn't. It's just worth mentioning that when we do miss meaningful relationships from the past, and it is very easy for one's first relationship to feel extra meaningful, we can quickly fall into the trap of missing the good parts and conveniently forgetting the bad parts, maybe turning them into good parts, if you will. Our memories can actually change as a means of coping. That's not an exaggeration. So it's great, it's great if you're more prepared to be a better communicator now, but that can be true alongside the fact that the things you didn't communicate in the past may have actually been problematic. They can be two separate things. And while discussing that stuff is paramount and will change the relationship for the better, or at least for the more truthful, just remember that you are still allowed to have problems with the relationship in the past or present, and that they aren't necessarily problems that are all in your imagination. So I might recommend just sitting with all of this, seeing what it stirs up for you, and if you still feel the same vigor and enthusiasm for reconnecting with her, just do so with patience and straightforwardness. Allow the exploration of both your and her feelings and values to lead the charge, right? And see if the 2022 versions of yourselves are still a good match. Thanks again for sending this in, Asker. Once again, I really appreciate you being so open, and I applaud your introspection and your devotion, especially at such a young age. The fact that you're considering these feelings and taking action to make more sense of them, that tells me that you're building a great foundation for yourself as a partner, whether it's with this girl or someone else, and that's fantastic. But that does bring us to the end, everybody. Thanks once again for being here and listening until the end. If you've got a question of your own that you'd like some help with, please feel free to email it to me at advice@oldpodcast.com, advice@oldpodcast.com, and you will definitely hear back. Aside from that, though, enjoy your Saturday, guys, if you're listening in real time, and I will see you back again tomorrow. That's where your optimal life awaits.